And I was always battling this lack of confidence, and it didn't matter how much money I made, to be honest with you. Ben, there's no money that I could make to buy confidence.
That's right.
So I'd go to the gym and I'd flounder just like everyone else. And so I was like, I'm going to get a trainer and I'm going to get a dietitian and I'm really going to go after this. And I never thought about being a bodybuilder. I just wanted to be comfortable in my own skin.
Welcome to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg.
We're live at the Ben Reinberg I Own It studios in Laguna Beach, California today, and really excited to talk to our guest today. Just an incredible story that you're really going to enjoy, and just stay tuned because this one's going to be a great episode. Burton Hughes, welcome to the show. What a pleasure, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. If you guys hear tornado sirens going off, just know that Dallas, we're under a severe weather. So if you see me dive under my desk, know that there's a freaking massive tornado coming my way. So
just get away from the windows. I'm from Chicago. I've done enough tornado warnings that I could tell you wholeheartedly, just get away from the windows and low ground as much as possible. So let's talk here. You have an incredible rags to riches story that you detail in your book, Align Your Empire, which I saw that excerpt, and it was published October 2021 to kick things off. I was hoping you could share a few anecdotes where you use the line, "That's not for you."
Yeah.
And how you use that how you use that external negativity as a springboard to aspire to and achieve great things, Burton.
Yeah. So when I was younger, just like anyone else, you're kind of in the Midwest, family, I won't say we're struggling to get by, but I grew up in a single wide trailer. I had no idea that we were quote unquote poor or whatever. It's just how things were. You don't really have any concept of rich, poor when you're young. You just play with your friends and you go to school. And I just remember I always had these grandiose ideas. And my brother and I, we had the 1989 Lamborghini Countach, poster on the wall. And as a young kid growing up in the 80s, that was the most iconic car ever. Even still to this day. And I remember being one day we're going to have that. And I remember always having those ideas. And I remember going to school and, what do you want to be? And I was I want to be famous and whatever. And I just remember my teachers always being people like you, where you come from, that's not for you. We got to be realistic. I don't want to set yourself up for failure. And I just remember that never sat right with me. So I always had this dreamer mindset. So I don't know if that's where the chip got on my shoulder, but I was always you know what? I'm going to prove you wrong. And that was literally how maybe I was just too blissfully unaware of my circumstances, whatever it may be. I just was petty and I was I'm going to prove you wrong. Watch what I can do. And that's really how it all started at a young age. So
when you were younger, did you have any strong role models? And where'd you get your ambitions from?
I've contemplated this quite a bit. And to be honest with you, no, I didn't really have any role models. There was no one that really stood out that I admired, that I wanted to be like. What drove me? I don't know. I think we get gifts. I think you're born with intrinsic gifts. I think that's one thing that God gave me was, like I said, I was a dreamer. I have another brother. He was the brawler, right? And another one of my brothers, he was the scholar. But I was always thinking big. And I think that, role models, no, I didn't really have anything. I looked up to my brothers. I think I wanted their approval. And I was always the younger brother that would do things. I think that they would get a lot of fun with me being at the pool because they would get me to do stuff. And, I didn't have any fear, right? So they would get me to do stuff and be ornery or whatever. And so I think that was, the approval of my big brothers and honestly just wanting to I just wanted to be involved. That was the biggest thing I can remember is just always just wanted to be like my brothers and just always had this big, just I don't know, this big personality. And it was always the teacher. I was always in trouble because I was talking too much and I was, just had all this energy. And I think that when I was younger like that, back then they didn't know how to steer that. They were just sit down, be quiet, right? Instead of channeling it. And I think that was just kind of really at a young age, again, just that was really how I was. So
And you had a sense there was a better way out there.
Yeah, 100%.
And so you also transform your body in an incredible way.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I like to work out. I'm big
fair.
into health and fitness, just like you are.
Mhm.
I'm not as established as you. I'm just a 53-year-old guy with a trainer that brings it every day. But from being body shamed to becoming a bodybuilder and winning Mr. Ohio, I don't know if people out there know you're Mr. Ohio.
Yep. Mr. Ohio
Yeah.
2010. Yep. And
Yeah.
then I turned pro in 2011. IFBB pro. Basically, when you win your state, then you qualify to go to nationals, and ended up becoming an IFBB pro in the men's physique division. So not like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? I mean, I'm not that big, but I'm more of the physique, more kind of the muscle and fitness, more of a mainstream look, and my body type and really the aesthetic that I was going for, that really aligned with my goals. And ultimately, again, you play the hands that you're dealt. I'll never be 280 pounds, so I'm 180 pounds, lean and mean and healthy, and that's a good look for me. And again, it's marketable. So yeah.
Yeah, it is a good look. What motivated you to transform your body?
I at 21 years old, I weighed 120 pounds. And I know
Uh-huh.
that sounds really light, but I wore it really well. I was actually an Abercrombie and Fitch model. I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, and Victoria's Secret and Limited Brands and Hollister and Abercrombie and Fitch. Those are all headquarters there. So I had a swimmer's body, and that was marketable for them too. But I never had the muscular stature. I was good in sports. I was fast, but just like anything, you grow up, you see the GI Joe, the GI Joe figurines, and they're ripped to shreds. They're beyond an 8-pack. I think I went back and looked at the toys, and they have like 16 abs, right? So it was always this. I don't know. Maybe it was just me just wanting to just constantly just improve myself. And I was always battling this lack of confidence, and it didn't matter how much money I made, to be honest with you. Ben, there's no money that I could make to buy confidence.
That's right.
So I'd go to the gym and I'd flounder just like everyone else. And so I was like, I'm going to get a trainer and I'm going to get a dietitian, and I'm really going to go after this. And I never thought about being a bodybuilder. I just wanted to be comfortable in my own skin. And I know there's, people listening to this right now, and maybe they had a New Year's resolution or whatever it may be. But just like anyone else, I knew that if I really wanted to be my best, trying to do this on my own with my, no idea what I'm doing, understanding the body. So I got a trainer and a dietitian, and I just went to work, and I was all in. I was coachable. I didn't have too much of an ego. I mean, if I'm paying someone for their advice, I'm going to follow it to a T. And that's what I did. And miraculously enough, it was like January 6th. We were sitting in the gym, and I remember Mike Davies said to me, he's like, "Burton, what do you think about doing a bodybuilding show in May?" And I just kind of laughed, and he's like, "I think it would be a good target for you. We've got 5 months. Let's get to work." And I made some funny joke. And anyway, I went to work, and within 9 months, I had won Mr. Ohio, and crazy story. And I just kept getting better and better. And again, it didn't start off that way. It just started off, I couldn't buy confidence, and I wanted to look good. But by the time summer rolled around, my body was looking good. I was feeling good. More anything, that I felt better. And just like anything else, I take it and I'm all in. So I ended up, like I said, turning pro the following year at North Americans in Cleveland, and kind of a side shoot, career kind of offshot. I started doing modeling and all this crazy stuff along with doing my real estate and my normal day-to-day life. And yeah, it was just something that I kind of fell into and ended up really enjoying it.
Did you use a trainer when you were preparing for Mr. Ohio?
Yeah, I did. There were like 4 warm-up shows in the spring over the summer, and then Mr. Ohio. It was called the Ohio State Bodybuilding Championships, but Mr. Ohio, that's what we call it. And that was in September. So I needed to get some experience. I needed to learn my posing routines. And again, this was all new to me. So I really needed to create that mind-body connection and really go after this thing. So I got a posing coach, and just like anything, I don't want to just run the bases. I want to hit home runs. So I got the best trainer, I got the best dietitian, and I followed it to a T. I mean, I remember again that same date, January 6th. I said, "How does alcohol fit into this?" And I remember him saying, like, "Well, 1 drink slows your metabolism down 72 hours." I was like, okay. And then I was at that point, late 20s, and I was getting 3-day hangovers, and that didn't feel great. So literally that day, I that was it for me. Alcohol, I didn't need it, and never looked back. And yeah, that's how it all kind of came to be. So having the trainer and then having the dietitian, it all plays into it. Doesn't matter how hard you train, if your diet and your nutrition isn't in place, it doesn't matter how hard you lift and how hard you work and do all the cardio. Really, it's 85% of it's diet, maybe even 90%. So
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That's 100%. At
yeah,
least anecdotally, I believe supplements are a big thing for bodybuilders. Is
yeah.
that true in your space? And what kind of diet and routines and supplements were you taking?
So you have to understand your body type. So I have to imagine you're the same as me. We're considered ectomorph, and if I'm wrong, or if you don't know what that is, we're more leaner in stature. Where we would put on weight is maybe just in our kidneys, and we get a belly, but our arms and our legs would kind of typically stay smaller. We just get a belly, and that's not great because that's around our heart. But with that, we have to make sure that our food's in line. So one thing that I found out as an ectomorph is the ratio of your proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. Just because it's healthy and it makes sense doesn't mean that's for your body type and your blood type. So we went into the science aspect and we started looking at 40-40-20 diet. So 40% of my nutrition is protein, 40% is carbohydrates, and then 20% was fats. Because with me, my body wants to drop muscle, store fat, to where a lot of, like someone that's maybe a mesomorph, their body wants to just pack muscle on, but then pass the fat on too. So they have to really, really go low carb. But for me, it's, again, finding what's right for me. And that's when, seeking the help and getting the people that know the science behind it and really just getting there more efficiently. The supplements that I did take were just that's a supplement. I think a lot of people ask me, like, how much do you bench and what supplements do you take and how much protein do you drink? I really want to tell them, like, what are you eating? Because if I told you I do one protein shake a day with an apple post-workout, they don't want to believe it. They want to think that there's some quick, like, what do you do to cut? It's not like that. So really, I take a digestive enzyme. It's not what you eat, it's what you absorb, right? And then so a nice digestive enzyme, obviously your protein powders, essential, your fatty acids, your essential oils, those are, like I take MRM brand, but it's called Smart Blend, and that has all your, your omegas and all that. And then I take for mental clarity, I take vitamin C, vitamin D for mood, and then I also take, this is like my little ace up my sleeve, is I take 5-HTP and St. John's wort. And it's kind of a mood stabilizer, because when you're dieting, you hear about people being like they're hangry or whatever. The 5-HTP and the St. John's wort's all natural. It's like a natural Xanax is what I would say. It just makes you kind of just easy breezy, because when you're dieting, it is tough, and it's tough on the mind. So I really leaned heavily on those, and it's healthy. It's all natural. So those are, and like a pre-workout, I need some caffeine. I need some, I need some go-go juice. So I always take a pre-workout, but I'm very, very allergic to creatine, which sucks because it's a really good, supplement. And I was taking these supplements, I was taking creatine, and I was throwing up everywhere. And it took like a month. I was like, man, like, why am I throwing up after my workout? It's like, oh, it's normal. You're working out hard and you're throwing up, but that's, it's a badge of honor. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't like this because I'm sick the rest of the night. I don't like this. Well, we found out that I was highly allergic to creatine monohydrate. So we had to switch and do crealkaline and do some different things. But again, just learning and knowing your body. So that's.
I recently got my hormones tested.
Yeah, I was going to go into that next too. Yeah.
And it's interesting because the guy came back with the lab results and he's like, all right, Ben, sit down. So I'm like, okay. And I'm very healthy. I eat healthy. Yeah. I take supplements, work out 6-7 days a week. And I have a trainer as well. And he comes in the room and he's like, you know what?
I want to cut you off real quick. Are you going to tell us your testosterone number?
No.
Okay. I was going to make a bet with you. Okay. Sorry.
No. So, so he comes in the room and he says, sit down, and we're talking. He says, normally I would sell you some testosterone and stuff to take. He goes, you are in such good shape. He goes, I feel guilty. I can't even sell you anything.
Oh,
and
wow.
just get up and get out of here. So because I'm just jealous.
That's good.
And I
Yeah.
said, great. I said, perfect. So, yeah, it's very interesting, supplements and how it affects your health and how it can enhance it. And I've been taking supplements for years, and it definitely it helps not only your workouts, but also your health, and especially working and traveling and stuff. Let me ask you something. What does your workout schedule look like today now that
Uh,
you're past Mr. Ohio?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not competing anymore.
Right.
I do want to. I'm on covers of hundreds and hundreds of romance novel covers. I know it's silly. Maybe people Google me and they laugh. My boys give me a hard time, but it's out of love. Make jokes to me. But realistically, I'm in the gym 1 to 2 times a day. I typically like to split my cardio and my lifting, and that's because I know myself. Because if I don't like to be in the gym for hours. That's just not what I try to do. I try to get in and out. 45-minute workout, 30 to 45 minutes. It's not about how much time you're in there. It's about what are you doing with the time that you have, right?
That's right.
And obviously, we're all busy with work. So typically, if I'm doing a 2-day split, which is pretty common for me, I'm in the gym early doing cardio, and then mid-afternoon at 3:30 to 4:15, I'll get my workout in. Then I'll work for a little bit, later that afternoon. And then typically I'll, pick my daughter up from gymnastics or, do just any of the domestic stuff that we got to do, run to the store. But I try to tie it all in to where when I'm out, I try to make sure, and I know 2 days sounds crazy, but it's easier to split it into 2 30-minute workouts and just kind of intertwine it into your schedule. I found that a lot easier than having to, carve out 2 hours at one time or an hour and a half at one time. We're all busy. So what I found is splitting it, it was much easier to integrate that into my schedule.
So let's pivot a little bit, because now we're going to get into my wheelhouse, and that's real estate. As you know, I'm a commercial real estate man, and been doing it for over 28 years. And you became a successful entrepreneur, and then you got into real estate. How did your professional journey start out?
So it was a little bit backwards. So I was talking about it last night with this investor group that I'm in, but oddly enough, when I was 21 years old, I got into the real estate new home sales game over a game of darts. And I don't think I've ever told this story. I've been wanting to tell it for a long time. Like I was telling you, I was an Abercrombie and Fitch model. So at 21, I was literally like, in those catalogs and stuff. So I go out and shoot darts with these guys. And these guys are mid 30s, early 40s. They're like, God, this pretty boy, they're making fun of me. And again, it's endearing. It's out of love, right? So I go shoot darts with these guys. And I'm like, what do you guys do? Like, we would sit in the model home and we work 25, 30 hours a week. And they're knocking back 2.25, 300 grand a year, ripping cigarettes and just getting bombed every night because you didn't have to go to work until 1 p.m. It was like 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. So these guys would just like party hard, and it's kind of like I think it's like car salesmen, and they do become new home sales. And these guys are just work hard, play hard, right? So I shot darts with these guys one night, and then one of the guys, his assistant, didn't show up that weekend, and I literally just went to his office. I felt like I built up enough rapport. I went to his office and said, "I'm coming to work for you." And I think he was kind of surprised that I came in. I was very certain. I said, "I'm going to come to work for you. I'm not taking no for an answer." And I heard your assistant didn't show up, and here I am. And that's ultimately how I got into new home sales. So that's really how I got into real estate. So
when did you start having financial success?
2004.
Okay.
So the fall of 2003, I worked for that company. They were a smaller semi-custom builder in Columbus, Ohio. And and I was like 3 days a week. It was a small, kind of a smaller mom and pop shop, right? But I could cut my teeth. I learned the business for a few months because I was all in. And then there was another company that was one of the largest builders in the Midwest, was Dominion Homes. And if you got on there, even as an assistant, your base salary was like 50, 60 grand, and then you could sell. And for me at 21 years old, like the opportunity to make 85 to 100 grand as someone's assistant, like I was like, that's really good money. And again, growing up in a trailer park, for me, like that was really, really good money. So for me, that's how that's when I started, making money. And then obviously I progressed. And as I wasn't an assistant, I moved up, became, a sales associate, and also became a sales rep. And then ultimately became a realtor. So it was kind of that natural progression.
So your book has a lot of wisdom and guidance for how to successfully live your life.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, I wanted to ask you this, how much of this knowledge did you already know when you were in your mid-20s and you're building your career in your life? Were there any that you had to learn the hard way?
I think I'm the poster child for learning the hard way, and a lot of it really was me just getting in my own way, right? I didn't think I knew it all. I was not a know-it-all, but I was just damn stubborn. So like double side of the stone, like what you got your drive, right? It's a double-edged sword. So your drive can then also kind of bring your downfall. So I think that my 20s, I was more driven by anger and more driven by wanting to prove everybody wrong. I think a lot of times people spend their whole life like want to prove their dad wrong, right? Instead of proving that, our creator correct, because he designed us. And it really wasn't until my 30s that I started softening my heart, because I had I want to say, like, one of my business partners said I had like a junkyard mentality, because I felt like if, as a realtor, I was always number one. Like that was one for me. Like I always wanted to have the number one. I was number one. But the way that I got there was a negative mindset. I thought if you were selling houses, Ben, that you were stealing from me. It was such a bad mindset, but it also made me successful too. But it also made me, I didn't have a lot of friends. I was closed off. People didn't want to be around me, because I really thought that if people were doing well around me, that they were taking food off my plate. A very terrible mindset from my 20s. But when I got into 30s, I don't know if my testosterone started dropping like it did, that I really started understanding that, once you start building a team and you start being around other people collectively, more that growth mindset, and really trying to understand that with other people, we can build alliances and we can go a lot faster, farther. That's when I started realizing that I needed to create some alliances and really start looking into masterminds and creating those business relationships. And that's ultimately kind of when we talk about like the hockey stick, that's when I really started to make the money that I always dreamed and thought about. So in my 20s, I cut teeth, learned some rough lessons, got my teeth kicked in. And in 30s when I really started putting it all together. So
let's discuss the 6 assets of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
Mindset,
Mm-hmm.
faith,
Mm-hmm.
family,
Mm-hmm.
fitness, finances, network.
Yeah.
How did you learn to apply each of these 6 in your life?
So at 15 years old, my dad handed me a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I thought it was a joke. I was actually embarrassed because of the book. I was like, you're going to hand me like a self-help book? I was embarrassed. But that's when I realized I didn't like school. I didn't really ever see myself being like going to college. So I knew sales. I knew that was always going to be a route for me. That's when I started realizing mindset. And I started reading like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Richest Man in Babylon, all the books. That's when I started realizing that, man, it's like my mindset. And then it just spoke to me, and I just felt like, oh man, I'm in my element. You start feeling like you're around your own tribe. I started feeling like maybe I'm not weird, because my whole life I felt like an outcast. I felt like an alien. But then I started reading these books, and I'm like, well, this is me, And there's a comfort, with that. Started reading these books, and really things started making sense. So for me, I knew really in my 20s and into my 30s that mindset, there's really no hierarchy, but the mindset seemed to be like the nucleus, because if you have a bad attitude, then it's not good, right? But then you can't be like overjoyless that like you're oblivious to like, even when things are on fire, like it's okay, everything's okay. No, it's not okay, right? But I knew that mindset was going to be crucial. And when I started getting into executive coaching and started helping build businesses and then even buying businesses and consulting, I started realizing everyone was really frustrated, and they were trying to balance this work-life balance. And it just seemed like there was a lot of common themes. So throughout working with people and discovering myself, I started isolating it. Everyone seemed to have a lot of the same problems. It didn't matter on what socioeconomic level they were, if they're a CEO at a company or they're entry-level salesperson. It's maybe bigger problems at the CEO level, but the same things kept coming up, and people were just frustrated, and they're trying to balance the work life and raising kids, and then, struggling with money and finances, network. So I just started highlighting that these are the 6 areas that I again, it just spoke to me. I was literally on a treadmill one day walking, and I felt like this laser beam hit me. And that's when you need to write this book. These are the 6 assets of alignment. And I promise you, it was just like that. Like I never thought of myself to write a book, but it was absolute clarity that you need to do this. And it was kind of right before COVID. So I came up with these 6 assets of alignment because I really wanted to go after the work-life balance. Everyone's frustrated. The world's shutting down. More than anything, I felt like it was a duty for me to put these things together to help people really just buy back their time. Everybody's talking about money. Well, time is a new currency. All I hear is I don't make enough money and I don't have enough time. Well, how about we make more money and have more time? And that was really for me, was coming back to when I was younger. You said that's not for you. I was always told that you either have one or the other. I'm like, why can't you have both? Why can't you make the money that you want to make and still have a great life while you're doing it? And that's where Align Your Empire came to be, is getting everything working in the same direction instead of having that constant tug of war of, do I pour into my business or do I scale back to, be with my family? And that's really where I started putting these ideas together and speaking on it. And it was really resonating with people. So I knew that I was on to something special.
How old are the kids?
Good. I have 3 daughters, 7, 4, and 3. Yeah.
You're outmanned. I'm curious, how do you go out teaching them about the 6 assets of alignment?
Mm-hmm. What was that question, sorry?
How do you go about teaching them about the 6 assets of alignment?
So they're still young. Where I'm working on them most right now is mindset. My daughters, their mom is a D1 athlete, right? So, and then obviously I have the fitness background. So you can see at a young age, like my girls are developed, right? So I've got a 7-year-old daughter and she's in the USGA program, and basically she's going to be homeschooled now because they're grooming her for the Olympics. She's serious. She was a Texas State champion at 6 years old. I mean, she's just amazing. And then her younger sister, Guinevere, they just asked her to be pre-team. She's like 3 years younger than any of the other girls in her class. So I'm building little mini athletes, but their mindset's galvanized because I'm not making them do this. I just say, look, this is what we're going to do. This is what it takes. So I'm working on their nutrition. I'm working on their fitness. Like, they don't ever gripe about going to practice. My daughter Coco wakes up by herself. She's got to be at practice at 7 a.m. She's up at 5:30 on her own. No alarm clock. She just wakes up. We've already got everything set out, the night before. She knows we got to eat breakfast, but I've got them kind of in their own capacity, right? I mean, we have our, I'm not saying that they're always perfect, but they know what their duties are. This is what they want to do. This is what it takes. So the nutrition, we're talking about that time management, not just going through the motions, not just wasting reps. And again, making sure and constantly assessing. I don't want to be the helicopter parent. I don't want to be the parent that makes them do. So as long as this is what you want to do, this is what it takes, and I'm giving it, and I'm giving it to them. So my finances, I'm financially backing it, but like their mindset and their scheduling and all that, I'm teaching them the alignments right at a young age, but I'm not necessarily telling them how. I'm doing it subtly. So
are you still deeply involved in real estate, and what kind of real estate are you investing in at all?
So in the real estate investment we do now, we're investing in REITs. So basically, I'm not in the day-to-day buying and selling real estate myself. I'm in we're in the home restoration business in Dallas. So I was just telling you, we're getting ready to hit some tornadoes and some hail. So when these ice balls, which we call diamonds, fall from the sky, we fix homes. We basically restore them either through insurance or retail. We do a lot with commercial real estate. We got some big projects coming up in Naples because of the hurricanes, but we invest in some real estate trusts. So basically with it, some of these masterminds that I'm in, some of these guys that I've met, they're smarter than me. They know real estate better than me. So I need places to park my money and to invest. So I have some trusted advisors, and basically what we do is we pool money together and we go in and on these land deals. And that's actually who I was with last night, was these guys from Rockstar Capital, and they do basically just buying and selling land, something I would have never known about. Yeah. And now I've learned. So that's kind of my day-to-day. So we're, residential and commercial real estate, restoring properties, remodeling homes, doing that literally on a daily basis. That's 85% of my schedule. So.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm obviously, I own a company here, and we're medical office experts, and we develop funds and have passive investors as well. So I'm very, very attuned to what you're doing and investing in.
in the medical, that's huge right now with the population getting older. I mean, I'm
Oh, yeah.
seeing medical buildings popping up everywhere. And I have to imagine like that's a pretty safe and secure investment.
It Yeah, I
Just
mean,
from this standpoint, they have to renew their leases because like there's the demand, right? I feel like there's not enough doctors, which is crazy because I literally feel like there's an urgent care or some type of medical building on every corner, especially here in
yeah.
Dallas.
Well, our investments are safe, secure, and profitable. That's
Yeah,
what we preach, and
good
great
recipe.
tax benefits, great returns, and the human body's never going out of style. So, I think we have the number one fund in the market.
Good.
And so, what does a successful look look to you and mean to you?
A successful life.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever imagined what you tell yourself when you're on your deathbed? Like, what's a successful life mean to you?
I think I'm 40. I think you said
Mm.
you're 53, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 40 is where, you know, I still feel like I'm Peter Pan, right? I think I look young for my age. I think, taking care of myself. But 40s, I'm now into the position to where you start thinking about mortality because friends that you went to high school with are starting to die and cancer and all these different things. And it's a reality check. I'm seeing, a couple of my buddies' wives are, breast cancer and stuff like that. So it's one of those things to where I'm constantly thinking about, am I on the right path? Are my alignments correct? I think about this scenario all the time. Like, what would I want to be, on my deathbed? And ultimately, I don't want to leave anything. I don't ever want to go back and, man, I wish I would have. I think about that a lot. So I would say that I'm a risk taker. I'm not risk averse. I'm not reckless, but I don't like saying no. So a lot of times I'm willing to take those risks. It's calculated. So I think really at the end of the day, if I'm on my deathbed, I want to make sure that I leave a legacy for my kids. The whole idea around this book was, my daughter's being young. My daughter Coco is the oldest. Like I said, she's 7. But my daughter, Gigi she's 4, and Pepper, she's 3. I know they know me now, but if I died today, they may remember the likeness in me. They may not. They may remember like me hugging and loving on them and talking, but they wouldn't really know me as a father and as a man. So that was ultimately one of the biggest things behind this book is I wanted them to know my heart and who I was and what I stood for. So Align Your Empire was, yes, I want to help people, but if I died today, I want my girls to know who I was and who I am, what it means to me, my core principles. So on my deathbed, I want to know that I made a difference. And ultimately, I want to build a life that I'm most proud of. And then I want to be a good example for my girls, not to be cliche, but, there's books out there, Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters, and as a male, we want to make sure that our daughters understand how to be treated. And I want them to be independent, and I want them to be well adjusted when they grow in. So ultimately, I want to be able to have the financial security, but also want to raise good humans and give them the best life possible. So I would say is the definition of success.
So you have a lot of similarities to me, Burton. I know you're a car enthusiast, which I am as well. What cars do you have, and what do you like to drive?
All right. So I already told you the Lamborghini Countach on the wall. So I want to say I'm a Lambo guy. When growing up, when I was 12 years old, my brother was killed in a drug deal that had gone wrong. So that's when I learned, there's a right way to live and a wrong way to live. My brother dealt drugs. Like I said, we kind of grew up without. So the idea of, behind a quick buck for him was very attractive, but ultimately cost him his life. But I made a pact with him in 1989, 1990. We pointed to that picture on the wall and we said, one day we're going to have it. Remember that young kid? I'm the little brother telling the older brother, I'm going to have that. We're going to have that. So on my 25th birthday, I bought a Lamborghini Gallardo. It was a 2004, and it was an absolute terrible car. I mean, that car almost killed me several times because it was like the first year for the E-Gear, and it was it was a great car. The E-Gear was horrible. It almost died. I pulled out, and this car would stall, and almost got brought. My girlfriend at the time was like, I'm never riding in this car again. You can have it. So anyway, I bought that car, and I kept my promise to my brother. One day I'm going to have one. And I did. And everyone always made fun of me and told me to get serious. And I always saw myself having Lamborghinis, and I envisioned it and the thinking, like and how we think and how you manifest and all this stuff. Man, like no one could tell me that I wasn't going to have it. So I would say I'm a Lambo guy. But the last couple of years, cars really started going up in value. And so I had the Lamborghini Gallardo, and then a couple of years ago, I've had a Rolls Royce Ghost, I had a Lamborghini Huracan. But then even my daughter was like, Daddy, do the doors go up? I was like, no, they don't, baby. So I sold the Huracan and bought the Aventador S, which the doors go up, and has a single clutch. It's a cool car, but I didn't love it. And then I ended up, begrudgingly jumping in a 488 Ferrari because here I am a Lambo guy. So Ferrari, you can't do that. But then I loved the car, so I jumped in a 488 for a few months. I've had a couple of those, and really one of those things. It was kind of like flipping houses, but I was flipping cars and turning some profits and having some cool cars. At the end of last year, I sold my 488 just because it was a good time to turn it in, and I know that the market's getting kind of weird with cars. So I'm a sucker for those, Italian sport cars, and I'm 5'9", so I fit right in there. So.
So as you know, we're all works in progress through our lives. And can you share a recent example where you had it wrong and owned it fully? The name of our show is I Own It. It's being responsible for everything in your life. Where did you realize you had it wrong recently and you owned it fully?
I mean, I can tell you right now where it was, and it's partly, so I heard this saying not too long ago, it's may not be your fault, but it's your problem, right? I mean, think about that. It may not be your fault, but it is your problem. So in 2012 is where you hear like you do well and then you crash and burn, right? So that happened to me in kind of that late 2000s. I got hit with the market recession and all that, and pivoted, got into into the fitness scene. But in 2012, I found myself at a failed marriage because the lady that I married was like a girl that I grew up with, but she wasn't on she didn't have the same wants and desires. She wanted a more simple life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, I had won Mr. Ohio, then I, covers of magazines, and I'm being casted in reality TV shows. And like I said, the Lamborghinis and stuff like that. This girl's like, this is not for me. And then, I was living in Florida, so I moved back home, try to save my marriage and do my thing. And started, getting into church, and then the church is telling me like, this is not a God, this is not a God-driven life. You're egotistic and all this stuff. But I wasn't. I was driven for. I wanted to have a fulfilling life, but I was letting people tell me what I was. The thing is I was a fitness person, but I was a pro fitness guy. I was a cover model, but it's what I did. It wasn't who I am. Right. Again, I got into it because I wanted to have more confidence, but people started taking cheap shots at me. The Lamborghini, like, what are you compensating for? It just feels like when you start getting successful. And like I said, at that time, I was very isolated. I was by myself. I didn't have the people speaking over me, teaching the mindset, teaching me that these are good things as long as you're a good steward with your money and you're in your building. So I got to the point where I went to the doctor and I had all this noise, and I thought that I needed to get Xanax, and I thought they told me you need antidepressants. So I started taking these pills, and again, I knew better, but I listened to the world. I let other people dictate, and that's where I messed up, and that's where I owned it. As I let other people tell me who I was, when I knew at the core there was nothing wrong with me. I was different, but different scares people. So one day I was working in the health club as we consulted for health clubs, and one day I wasn't even having that bad of a morning, Ben, to be honest with you, but I ate 29 Ativan. It was just the rest that I had in the bottle. I literally said, F it, and I just downed the bottle and went into work. Just that matter of fact. I woke up 5 days later from a coma, and the nurses said, you must be pretty special, baby. She's like, we've had more people coming and have come in and visited you. You must be special. And the doctors came in and they were, checking my vitals and where I'm at. And they told me that 8 Ativan should kill you, let alone 29. Listen to that. 8 kills you. And if 8 doesn't kill you, you're mentally incapacitated for the rest of your life. I ate 29. I had a little bit of short-term memory loss, but metaphorically, I felt like when I woke up, I was, when I say like reborn, I had a different spirit. It's like the old me was dead, and I wasn't going to listen to anyone else. I wasn't going to listen to the naysayers and the haters that people say, because the thing is, different scares people. And if you're different, people want to, like the crabs in the bucket. I listened. Now I fortified my mindset. I'm around the right people. because now when you're the big fish in a little pond, people want to attack you. So that's where I needed to own it. I needed to fortify myself with my faith, but I needed to get around the right people, because when you're with the right people at the right time, at the right place, the right things happen. So that's when I knew I needed to create those alliances, and I needed to reach up and and have people pull me up. And that's where I would
It's
say
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing when you surround yourself with the wrong people, how it can impact your thoughts and your whole life and your behavior. And I've learned that for a long time. And for everyone out there listening, be real careful who you surround yourself with, because they will poison what I call the water. They pour thoughts into you, have ideas. A lot of people have opinions, and what you should seek is counsel. Look for counsel from people that have been there and done that. And opinions are usually from people that want to share their fears, share their sentiment, and pour it into you when maybe they haven't done it. And they just want to give you their thoughts to hear, because they don't have the guts to do it themselves. And I see that a lot with entrepreneurs.
And the big thing with that, I just want to add one thing to that. Be very careful, because it doesn't come over as poison. It comes over as, I'm just looking out for you. It could be your mom saying, baby, you just need to slow down. You're going too fast. I love you. I don't want to see you hurt. And the thing is those were the type of things that I listened to, because it doesn't outright come out like the boogeyman. It's not like people being like, you're going to fail. It's people saying, I just don't want you to fall. I don't want you to get hurt.
What's behind that is that's their fears. That's their fears that are coming out, because, they're shedding their fears and values onto you. And I see that a lot. I see a lot of, even with my employees and people around me, where, people's values are pouring into them, and it's not who they are as a person. And then all of a sudden they adapt, and their body physiology adapts to it too. It's a real interesting process I see frequently. Burton, what's the best way to follow you so our audience can connect with you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on, social media. I would say of all the social medias, I would say I'm most active on Instagram. You can find me at Burton, BURTON _Hughes_official. My website, same thing, BurtonHughesOfficial.com.
Okay.
And I'm pretty active on there. I've got Facebook too. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up with our 3 questions. All right. Here we go.
Is it like a lightning round?
Yes, a little bit of lightning. Okay. In Laguna Beach, at our studio, we have a couch. You can't see it. And I say, Burton, lay down. And you're 40 years old now, and you're been successful entrepreneur, have a family, learned a lot of lessons throughout your career and your life. You can go back in time and talk to your 16-year-old self. What advice are you giving yourself to educate your 16-year-old self of things that you've learned to date?
Motivation is temporary. You need to constantly put good information in your mind. Surround yourself with the right people, not people that like your friends.
Mm-hmm.
When you go places, seek to shake new hands. And don't let anyone tell you that you can't. Stay petty, because you're petty and you're hard-headed. Because again, I'm talking to myself, right? Don't lose sight of that. But at the same time, don't ever let anyone tell you that you're not enough. And don't ever let anyone tell you that you can't. Fortify your mind and stay on the right path and help others, because there's going to be time, even when you feel like you've made it or you are making it, you're going to need help. And as you're pulling people up, other people are going to be pulling you up as well. So that's what I would say.
Well said. Well said. It's our last day on earth. God forbid. It's just me and you. It's our last meal. Your choice. What are we eating and what are we drinking?
Well, I'm pretty boring, so I'm going to say it'd be a Coke Zero with a couple limes would probably be my last choice for a drink. I know it's lame. I know.
I can't do a Coke Zero, but keep going.
You asked.
I might have to be thirsty. Drink out of a well or something. Go ahead. What are we
Coke
eating?
Zero, a couple limes. Honestly, I would have to say, man, I'm a creature of habit. I would say probably some type of sometimes snow beef, something like just some crazy exotic, like, I mean, it's like $100 an ounce. There's going to be some like crazy steak and some type of potato and asparagus. Again, I know it sounds boring, but that's probably
Like
going to be it, man. Yeah.
like a Japanese Wagyu would be perfect.
Yeah.
So in our studio, we have a grand piano, a drum set, and electric guitars.
Mhm.
If you're in studio with me and you can pick any band or musician, they could be alive or deceased, to come in the studio and play us a song, who is coming in the studio? Your choice, and what song are they playing us?
Ooh, this is a good question. Oh man. I would like to have Frank Sinatra come in and serenade us on that piano, man. I think that would be really cool. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All right.
I like that old crooner music for sure. Yeah.
You could play My Way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a perfect song for us.
There you go.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, Burton Hughes, what a pleasure. It was great seeing you, and thank you for coming on today. If you're interested in listening to more episodes like this, like the one we just did with Burton Hughes, drop kick the lower right-hand red button and click subscribe. Also, keep liking our podcasts all over the place on YouTube and around all the social media platforms. That way, the more likes we get, we can share great content and knowledge and let it go viral. Also, if you're interested in following me, go to benreinberg.com. You can find me on all social media platforms. And also feel free to follow my company. It's alliancecgc.com. We are the leaders in commercial real estate investing. We just launched our brand new fund, the Alliance Medical Property Fund. We're very excited about it. So if you're interested in investing, feel free to log on to our website and reach out, and happy to make you a ton of money like we do here at Alliance. So Burton Hughes, thank you so much for your time today. And it was great seeing you, and you look great. Keep rocking and keep working on your health and fitness.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for listening to the I Own It podcast with Ben Reinberg. To hear our past episodes and connect with Ben, visit benreinberg.com.